Hello everybody, hope you're all doing really well. Pretty frosty morning this morning. I've actually just driven not far up the road. It's about a 15-minute drive from where I live, and it's a little place called Little Mountain, which is it's quite unusual actually. It's a small hill surrounded by forests pretty much. It's about maybe 100 meters tall, and there are houses on one side, and right in front of me there's a cell phone tower. But on the back side, there's this wonderful view of some of the mountains that go up the middle of Vancouver Island. Now, the last few days, there has been a little bit of an inversion, so there's been just a little bit of fog down in the valley here. So I decided to come up here before the sun came up and try and capture some of that inversion, but of course I get up here and there's no fog whatsoever, and actually it's clear as a bell out. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a dud as far as photography goes, but you know, that's just the way it is, I guess. There's a beautiful sickle moon over to the southeast here. But that's about it. There's some frost up here, and there are some arbutus trees. So perhaps when the sun comes up, I'll be able to get a couple of quick shots of the arbutus trees with some light on them. I'm not sure. Right, I'm just going to wait for the light. To be honest with you, I have trouble setting up compositions until I actually see where the light's falling and what it's doing. If I'd been up here before at sunrise and had a specific subject in mind, then it might be a bit easier, but I don't really have a specific subject. I'm just going to wait for the light and see what happens. All right, I've had to change cameras here because I forgot to bring batteries up. I'm so amateurish sometimes. But luckily I have this little Osmo with me, which I keep for these emergencies. The sun has just come up, and I think I found a composition. I love this arbutus tree down here, and you can see it's just catching a little bit of the morning light. And right behind me here, some of these trees are catching a bit of an orange glow. So I'm going to set up really quickly, take the shot, and then I'll go over the composition with you. It would be nice if there was fog in the valley. So this is more of a kind of a, I don't know, I just want to try it out and see if it works. And then, luckily I live close enough that when we do get an inversion or we get fog in this valley here and it's down below these trees, I think it'll look really good. And it has happened a number of times, it's just not this morning. There's quite a bit of fog over at the back here. You can't see the mountains anymore, but it's not really low. There's the little patchy sections, but nothing really too exciting. So anyway, let me set up for this shot. I'll take the shot and then I'll show you what I have. Okay, this is actually really quite beautiful. I love the contrast of the reds and the greens, and of course with that beautiful morning side lighting, it really brings out the oranges in this arbutus tree. So I started back quite a ways because right in front of me here there's a cliff, and it's probably about 150, 200 feet high, and there's moss on the edge of it and it's covered in frost. So I don't want to get too close because well, nobody knows I'm up here and they probably won't find me for a week or two. But what I wanted to do is, I started off back there and it looked really good, but what I'm noticing is there's a little arbutus tree that's, it's died, but it has a really nice shape and it's right on the edge of the cliff. And I wanted that to be part of the photograph, but the problem is when I'm back quite far, the limbs of this arbutus kind of cut off the shape of it. So the only way to include the whole of that little snag is to get up close to this tree with a wide angle lens so that I'm able to get the whole of that snag and the shape of that snag inside of the branches. I'll show you what I'm talking about right now. Okay, I really wish I'd brought batteries for my other camera because this is a bit of a pain. But anyway, so this is the composition that I've come up with. You'll notice that there's this beautiful shaped tree in the center here, and I've tried to frame it with these two other trees on the outsides, one on the left and one on the right. But the snag that I'm talking about, you probably can't quite see it, but it's right in the background here. And as I said, if I back up, then these branches end up cutting off the snag. So I wanted to include that whole shape of that thing. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to crop this or not. I really love the composition, and the light is just beautiful right now. The only thing that I don't like about it is this kind of gray snag here. It wouldn't be so bad, but someone's cut it off with a saw, so it's, it doesn't look so natural, But even the tree back here is all part of the composition. You'll see that we have this pointy conifer in the back here. Now, as far as this corner here, it's a little bit overexposed, but that's fine. It has a really great glow in there. It's funny, when people think of Canada, they often think of a very cold country, and it certainly is in the winter, and most of the country is in a deep freeze. But the south and eastern coasts of Vancouver Island are probably the warmest in Canada, and it's actually quite temperate. And I just noticed that on this little hill here, there's actually some manzanita growing, which looks very similar to arbutus or madrone trees. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really quite twisty, and it has that beautiful, deep, kind of purple bark on it. Yeah, very cool. Good morning, everybody. I've come back up to Little Mountain. I've said this over a number of times throughout my videos. Probably my best images come from areas that are close to home. And the reason being is that I'm able to continually go back and forth to those areas without too much trouble and just improve on compositions or wait for conditions that are really great. Now, this morning, the conditions are very similar to yesterday. We have blue skies, but today we have a few more high clouds, so there is going to be some pink clouds in the sky, and actually they're starting to happen right now. But yesterday morning I came out and I looked at the sky and I almost turned back home, and I thought, no, I'll try and find something. And when I photographed these trees with that beautiful light, I was really happy with the image that I got. The light was just absolutely beautiful. So you've seen that image. Now, I did take a few other variations, and some of them I actually liked better than the one that I showed you, but my focus was out. And that's the thing with the medium format camera. You have to be very careful with depth of field and focus. Because you're using a larger sensor, you're not getting quite as much depth of field. So you really have to keep an eye on that. And my foreground was out a little bit. So I've come back to retake the images, and luckily the conditions are more or less the same. There isn't as much frost on the hills here, but I think the light is going to be very similar. So I can retake those images. And also, while I was looking at those photographs, I noticed there's some other compositions in the images that I took, especially a vertical composition just framing that dead snag in the background. So I'm going to take that shot as well. I might be able to get some grand scenics, but it's a little hazy, so I'm not sure. Perhaps if I can get an arbutus tree or something in the foreground. But my main subject is just these trees again. I'm just going to try and refine my composition. And that's one of the things that I really love about finding an area that's local, or just a little spot that you can just keep coming back to. You can really refine and practice your craft. Whereas if you travel to, say, some exotic location, like when I went to Greenland, or even my recent trip with the F4 group, most of the areas we went to, we were only there for a day or two, and I found it extremely difficult to get into that area and come away with some shots that I was really happy with. So I'm going to set up right now. Actually, I'll take a shot without the light, and I'll take one with, and you guys can compare. I'm always ramping on about the light, and some people will say, well, composition is more important. I still disagree. I think that light is very much at the heart of good photography. Composition is a close second, for sure. All right, now the sun has come up, but I'm just waiting for some clouds to move out the way. It seems that we have clouds forming in the east there, so we're not getting any direct sunlight. So it's not exactly the same as yesterday. The high clouds just behind me here started to go a little bit pink, and then they just fizzled out, which is often happens around here. And we also have a guy with a couple of women photographing up here with their music. I don't know. I have a hard time relating to people that come out to an area like this where it's nice and quiet, it's a good start to the day, and then you turn on music and blare it out for everybody to hear. I don't quite get that, but anyway. Right. As far as compositions go, so one of the compositions that I saw out of my horizontal yesterday was a vertical. So totally eliminate the tree that's on the left side with that stump there, and just take a vertical so that I'm framing that dead snag that I talked about earlier. So that's the shot that I really wanted to get today. It's kind of refined that whole composition. And also, I really love these branches at the top. So I wanted to do somewhat of a panorama just of the top branches. To me, that looks really cool. So we'll just wait for the sun to do something, and hopefully we'll get some nice light on these trees before it gets too late in the day. Okay, I just figured it out. They're not photographers, they're Instagrammers. Sorry to all those Instagrammers out there. Actually, I wouldn't mind the music if it was decent music. I think that's the problem I have. Okay, so while I'm waiting for the light, I'll just show you the composition that I have. And I do think, I really like this because it's really simplified my original idea. Again, I'm just framing this dead snag back here. And actually, as I look at this, I might move my camera, just face it over to the right a little bit more and move the camera over to the left, just so that it's not so close to this tree here. But you can see the general idea of what I'm trying to do here. I wanted to get rid of this this stump that was on the left side there. But I like the simple composition. I love these branches up here. So the only thing we're really missing is a little bit of light. Oh, and it's just starting to come now. Now, the clouds in the east are diffusing the light somewhat, but I kind of like the effect. So let's just take a quick shot of that. And what I'll do now is I just want to zoom in and just make sure that, especially in the foreground, that everything is in sharp focus. You can see we have that beautiful blue kind of purple light again. I just love that color. Yeah, it looks really good. Okay, so I'm just going to take a few more variations and do my pano really quickly before I lose the light. Check this out. You guys probably can't see this, but it's right. Where is he? Up here? Up here. Right up here. There's a little hummingbird. And actually there was a couple of hummingbirds by that manzanita that I was photographing yesterday. Some hummingbirds stick around for the whole of the winter. And I know on the lower mainland we feed them, so we have 2 or 3 that hang around in the garden for the full winter. But on the island here, they actually nest in the spring or summer. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh, it's gone. All right, I think I'm done for this morning. The light, actually, it came out for a little bit. I mean, it's out now, but it's getting a little bit high, a little bit harsh. But the light did come out for about 2 minutes there, and I managed to get the shots that I wanted. Now, whether they're an improvement over what I took yesterday, I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that I've really tried to simplify and improve on those compositions. And as I said before, that's the great thing about finding an area that's local to where you live, where you can just go there really quickly in the morning or after work or whatever, and take a few shots and just keep working on those compositions and also your skills in your craft. That's how I started. I used to live not too far from a public garden, and I just kept going to that public garden over and over again and just practiced photography. And I think that's how I ended up improving over time. So I will definitely come back up here because as I've said before, I know that we get fog in the valley here, and if you had fog in the valley and no fog up here or very little, the conditions could be absolutely fantastic, especially with these arbutus trees. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this little adventure up Little Mountain. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content of my channel. Right, now next week I think I'm going to try and go a little bit further afield. I'm thinking of going into Carmana Provincial Park, which, as most of you know, I absolutely love it in there. So stay tuned for next week's video. All right, until then, bye for now.